So hello everyone, or anyone who is out there observing this right now.
Hello.
So obviously some of you may know me. If you don't know me, I'm Anthony Middleton, or Anthony the Body Engineer. And this is Isabel.
Just Izzy, yeah.
Just Izzy, Isabel Slingerland. We're both yoga teachers here in the Netherlands right now. And also I'm a manual therapist, training also as a physio, hopefully from this year, all things going well. So this evening, or what this is all about really, with Bodyworks Holland, it's an initiative that we've set up together, partly due to this crisis. Self-employed people, we now are currently out of work and not working at the moment in the yoga studios, just doing the occasional online video. So we thought that we'd come together actually and share our yoga teaching with you each evening in our living room. So welcome to our living room. And also those other skills that we both work with as manual therapists. Izzy's also a great Thai massage therapist. So we thought that we'd also set up tutorials for that. So information to do with like the scheduling of what we're going to be offering, various yoga classes in different styles, also those tutorials working with some massage-based techniques. All of that you can find on, I think I've posted it recently on Instagram. Izzy, probably I think we will be posting it soon.
And also do it again, so just keep checking in Instagram or on our website. We'll have more information.
And feel free to also send us any requesting. You know, if you feel like there's a certain kind of class that you'd like us to deliver, maybe we can also look into that. It might be that we can see if that's something we can do. Also with those tutorials, if that's something you quite enjoy, let us know. On the timetable on there as well, you'll also see one that says Coffee Tide. That's something that we thought up just as an opportunity maybe to connect with you through conversation.
So if we'll be ranting ourselves anyway on our sofa usually around that time, so we thought, might as well put it live.
So it might be things like based around maybe it's aspects of yoga, some philosophy perhaps. For myself it's probably going to be more anatomy based. I love talking about anatomy.
Things like, you know, like subjects like motivation, self-practice, creativity, and
perhaps some pranayama, maybe some breath work technique in that. We'll see what we do.
We'll leave it a bit.
But yeah, so this evening is a Yin Yang practice, and we'll kick off in a second. Just one note to say though about the donations based thing. So obviously this is an initiative that we've set up, first of all, to keep ourselves teaching. We both love teaching and we want to continue it, so we're trying to keep it going. But also this is an initiative for us to hopefully try and raise some personal funds. So we have got a donations page. You can find that in a link on both of our Instagram profiles, but also on our websites. So that's izzymoves.com and theBodyEngineer.nl. And there's a donations page on each of those. Hopefully it's quite simple. Any questions, send us a message or an email or something. Shall I get started?
Yeah. Great.
So this is a Yin Yang practice. You might want to have yourself some socks for this sequence today. I thought about trying to work in a way with the sequencing that gradually starts with some of those yin-based postures, but perhaps gradually builds us towards something that flows a little smoother, a little freer. So we're gradually building some heat, building some fluidity, some elasticity into the body. Okay, so we're going to start actually standing up. So we'll start by coming to a nice wide leg position standing, and maybe for yourselves at home here, if you're using a mat, come towards the back end of your mat. So you've got somewhere to drive towards. And we're just going to soften the knees, let the feet be nice and wide. Doesn't need to necessarily be under the hips at this point. Just somewhere where those knees can naturally soften, your joints can all be soft. And just closing your eyes, feel your body for a second, check in, feel the tensions in your body. And we're just going to start by slowing the breath. So a method that we're going to use here to help slow the breath is connect the breath into movement. So your inhalation is drawing the shoulders upwards and forwards, rolling those shoulders back, and your exhale is sliding the blades down the back, softening the knees, drifting weight forward into the toes. Breath in is lifting collarbones and shoulders. Your exhale is softening down. Now let's see if we can start to slow that process down. So perhaps taking 3 or 4 counts, perhaps if we're counting, but just feeling that we are slowing down that process of lifting, slowing down that process of sinking. Feel that the bones are nice and soft, And they're supported and connected by that soft tissue, that fascial tissue, also the muscular tissue. And we are flooding all of those tissues with blood, with our breath, with oxygen, and just gradually easing into the body. And then let's perhaps think that we can start to exaggerate this movement in the shoulders by moving more into the whole arm. So circling the arm up overhead, just stopping around that vertical, not wanting to go too far back here, and then exhale, arms come around the outside. So our breath in is coming up the front of the body, and your exhalation, arms widening and softening down. Your pelvic floor as we take this is feeling spongy, elastic, not contracted and tight. Not feeling that we are consistently squeezing, but we are moving through like a pulsating jellyfish all the time here. And then let's soften those knees a little further perhaps. Can we go a bit deeper? Arms perhaps now, let's just keep them more in front of the body, soften into the knees and hips. So not worrying too much about this being postural at this point, it's just fluid, it's just movement. Softening into the joints. And then as we maybe come down the next time, we start tipping the pelvis and let the body come down. Just let your hands connect with the floor. Perhaps bring the feet a little bit closer and perhaps more aligning the toes forwards if that works better for us. I'm just going to drift back on my mat here, so I'm probably in the same orientation as you guys now at home. But softening myself over my legs, relaxed neck. Checking in here that I'm not again concreting or solidifying into a position. So often for me, I feel that it's a misconception really for a yin-based practice to think of it as statues that we just sustain for periods of time. But feeling that when we find a posture, when we explore a structure, that we are finding that fluidity, finding the way in which we are constantly growing with that inhalation, softening with that exhalation. Now the next little action we're going to take from here is a deep squat. So I'm going to squat down, find those knees hinging, maybe the heels lift, perfectly fine if that happens. I'm just exploring the hinges into the legs. Neck is nice and released. I'm not holding tension anywhere, but I'm feeling that I'm sitting into the soft tissues, and I could at any point spring from this point if I wanted. I'm going to walk those hands forward. Let the knees come down into the floor. And maybe having those hands a little further out, maybe further back, whichever works best for you. But I'm pushing the spine through the skin. I'm lifting up this area in front of the abdominal, so my organs aren't hanging down towards the floor, and I'm not super passive. I have that lift. I'm rounding the spine. I'm just going to sustain this position for a few more moments, and then I'm going to start moving forward. And we're gradually moving from this more movement, more yang-based activity here towards our first yin posture. But I'm going to start by coming to this all fours. I'm going to move right shoulder away from right sitting bone. So you possibly can't quite see it from that camera angle, but I've got an arch of the spine going towards the left. I'm coming back through center, opening up the left side, like an accordion. I know that Izzy often uses that in her classes as an analogy. I think it's a really useful one. Coming back through center, finding that accordion rib cage on the right, coming back through center, accordion onto the left. Now let's stay here with this opening onto that left side. Lift the left hand. I'm going to drift the weight now into the right hand and see if I can step that left foot forward. So we're moving towards a lizard position. So it's a lunging position, perhaps even maybe thinking about this as a dragon position, because it's quite fiery into the legs, but I'm softening into that lunge, leaning forwards. Now lizard, we're referring to it more as lizard as I'm on the inside of the legs and I can slide down through into that lizard position. But if you're finding that's too stressful for your legs, maybe move the foot closer and rest onto the thigh. And just let this be more of a baby dragon position. But we're going to sustain this position. Just settling. Feeling that gradual change here. So following that little bit of fire that we've created from those first few movements, just letting ourselves settle. Breath in that super slow, natural state, efficient breath. Now you may find that you're working quite strong here in the arms. So again, for me, a misconception of yin is that it's often way too passive. But actually here what I'm doing is I'm working energetically through the arms to keep the arms aligned, to keep the structure, But I'm working in that yin method into that left hip, into the right hip, into the pelvic area. And the postures today are focused around that area, so I'm softening into that hip socket, feeling for that moment with the tensile tissue of your fascia. You'll have a moment somewhere between a minute and a minute, half a minute and a minute, where you feel there's a sudden melting sensation, and you start to feel that whole tissue give a little. Now I'm just going to start to push from the hands, and I'm moving the pelvis back. So I'm just moving a bit now into the flexibility of that left hamstring area, the back of the left leg. Just gently pulsing forwards and backwards. Careful that this doesn't become like a sudden pelvic thrust. It's just a gentle movement coming forwards and backwards. It could be very subtle, very tiny. It may be that you even want to flex the foot and journey much further back to elongate the tissue more. But again, not worrying that this isn't a super stretch. It doesn't want to be a massive super stretch. We're just easing into the tissue, softening up, coming back forwards. Now the next time we come forwards, we're going to keep the weight coming forward into those hands, and I'm going to see what happens here if I start to move that left leg out to the side. So maybe actually, I think I do need to drift the weight back a little here, and I'm going to start moving the body forwards onto the front. I'm going to soften that left knee and find my way into this kind of army crawl position. So it's like a forward bending, more frog-like position, half a frog and half lengthen on that right side. I'm going to rest the hands onto the floor, turn the head towards the left elbow, and just let myself relax a little here. So great position here, reclined onto the front surface, laying prone, breathing into the belly. How can that perhaps give you a sensation of decompression in the lower part of your back? How can we feel that this creates that space into the lower spine and connect into the hips? Now the next little movement that we're going to take here within this position is just an alteration of this left knee. So I'm going to internally rotate the left hip. And it looks a little like this. I'm going to lift the ankle to the sky. It may not go very far, and I'm just gently going to lower it back down. So that little internal rotation, I'm just using that to help perhaps create some space into the external rotators by trying to internally rotate. So I'm just gently going to move the foot. If you find that that's an aggressive movement for your hip, if it's not comfortable, or if you find that your left knee is quite uncomfortable on the floor, just stay in this position with the hip opening. There's a lot of benefits for the inside thighs here on this left leg in this position. So feel free just to sustain this if this works better for you. And I'm just tuning in. Staying deep with the breathing, focused with the breath, not too strong. Now from here, we're going to start to move those hands towards the left side of the mat. So careful there of the video if that's kind of confusing, but I'm moving my hands to the left side of the mat and just gently dragging the body to follow. Now that's going to give me enough space to perhaps use the left toe here to help me roll onto my right side body. So it's like I'm moving towards a spinal twist. I'm going to soften that left knee a little higher towards the chest, lay myself down. So I'm elongating the spine into this twist, gently guiding left thigh into the hip. And then I'm going to maybe bring that right hand onto the outer left thigh. So I'm thinking about how this right arm can anchor the leg down, but I'm going to press the left knee up to the ceiling. Now if you want an extra challenge, lift the foot as well. And you'll find that the outer left leg here, that muscle here coming, the tensor fasciae lata coming into that iliotibial band will switch on a little. You'll find that the glutes will all be working. But I'm starting to feel that engagement. It may feel quite strong for some people, so take a few moments here, feeling that muscular engagement, and then with your next slow, passive exhalation, just let the leg become heavy. And that's sinking down there into your spinal twist. And I'm using that right arm here still again as a gentle anchor to help keep the spinal twist. Tuning in here to the feeling of gravity, drawing me into the floor, helping to ease out the tension that we've perhaps created there into the spine and into the hip. So let's perhaps even think about our Yin Yang practice as a balance between tension versus relaxation, or energy versus passive, active versus passive. So how here can I tune in to use gravity in that slightly more passive way to allow the weight of that left thigh to fall towards the ground? Check in here that the neck doesn't tighten. That's a typical area here in a spinal twist as we perhaps try and draw the chin over the left shoulder. Just notice where you can place the skull. That actually means that the neck is quite balanced. Now to exit from this position, that left arm, I'm going to feed overhead to help bring me back onto my side. And this is a little bit of a complicated transition here. I'm going to draw the right knee underneath the left leg. So I'm curling myself up a little bit. Then that left leg can just swivel around. And then I'm going to use my shoulder and my back to help wriggle myself back onto my mat. It's not the most elegant of transitions, but it will bring you back onto your mat. And you can then feel your spine just dissolve into the floor. So perhaps here as you lay yourself down with those knees up to the sky, how does it feel in your spine following those first few movements? Let's bring the arms up overhead, and I'm going to draw the knees towards the chest. So I'm moving myself here towards a happy baby position. So I'm just going to reach those arms up, take a hold of the feet, the outer edges of the feet perhaps, and then just gently melt the spine back down into the floor. And as I melt the spine into the floor, I'm sensing or feeling what's going on in the back of the legs. So for myself here today, I'm feeling those hamstrings are quite tight. I'm feeling the inner thighs are a little tight. But I'm just tuning in here that with that sustained, very gentle stress onto the tissue, how do I feel that it changes? How does it slowly alter? Check in on your breathing again here. How are we maintaining that subtle, cyclical nature of our breathing? And we might start to feel that change around this period, around that 30-second to 40-second period, where the tension in the tissue just slightly shifts. We start to feel that gradual either elasticity or even perhaps plasticity, that we feel that change. We're creating a more sustainable length into the fascial tissue. And then we're drawing the inner ankles towards each other, like we're trying to bring the feet almost together. And we're going to start a rocking action. This rocking action is going to eventually bring me up to sitting. So I'm just going to build some momentum, get some curvature into the spine, then nose towards the throat here, and gently drive those feet forward. That's going to bring you up to sit up onto your bottom. And then here we're coming into that diamond position, that butterfly position. So in our butterfly position, not needing to bring the heels too far back or too far forwards, but finding that Goldilocks position where we're enabling the hips to open. Now for this, you might even find that if you're feeling it's really difficult, you might want to, I've got our library around here, you can grab even yourself a little book, or if you have a block at home, or a bolster perhaps even works well, or even a rolled up towel could sometimes work, just lifting your pelvis up a little for this first initial entrance to our position. And just ease yourself forwards. Now again, in a yin-based practice here, we're not being too concerned about getting into the depth of a position and finding a supreme stretch, but just enough information here to start that change in the tissue. Perhaps drawing the toes back if we feel that helps protect the ankles. And little tiny movements into this position, so not feeling that I have to be static. There's no rules here about being completely static or still. Maybe even subtle movements in the shoulder blades, very slow and conscious movements of those shoulder blades. That can actually start to instigate a change in the tension of the tissue. You might even find that there's the capacity for you to deepen your forward bend simply by adding a small amount of movement. And And once you find a position that actually you're quite comfortable, perhaps in sustaining, just let yourself settle. Let gravity offer that instrument to change the tension in your body. So in these times we may find that actually our minds are quite hectic, are quite busy. I myself, setting up this initial first session today, I'm quite nervous in delivering this practice. So my mind is racing. So here I can just take that opportunity to settle myself down, to feel the tension in the body, feel how it's changing. So we're utilising that aspect of this yin side of our practice this evening to find that opportunity to create a more peaceful state in the mind, a more tranquil state in your body. Now, for those of us perhaps who are more flexible, you might find that you're quite deep in this position, not really feeling much information going into the body. So instead, what you might prefer to explore for those people who are hypermobile or super flexible, I'm not myself super flexible, but to demonstrate what we maybe do is to lift ourselves up a little higher and perhaps lessen the pressure of the fingers into the floor. And so what we're doing there is we're training up the tonicity, the tone of that fascial tissue to actually be stronger in sustaining our position. So that's an option for if ever we're out there doing hypermobility, if we are doing our yin-based practice. But perhaps adding in that moment of tension or suspension in your postures. That's a great way to train that tonicity in your tissue. Now from here we're gradually going to start easing our way out from here. Just gently move the hands back, hurdle them over the shins. Let your legs lengthen out, hands come behind you, just lean back. Perhaps take a little shake of the legs. And then I'm going to lean back a little further, taking the weight away from the legs, so I can bend the knees and place the feet in the floor. I'm pushing the knees forward to lift up. So it's again more of a yang-based position. I'm pushing through those arms. But I'm from here working onto this left-hand side, so my left leg has been shooting out here into the other positions. So I'm keeping that left leg now strong. I'm going to relax the right leg. I'm going to press through the right arm, and here's a little fancy kebab spit movement. I'm going to send the arm over the top and lift the bum up, and I'm just going to crawl myself around like some kind of gorilla or orangutan. And then I'm going to find that wrap in the shoulders to press the pelvis backwards. So notice there, I'm not worrying about stretching the knees. I'm thinking about moving the spine backwards in space. I'm going to find a stretch into the hamstrings anyway as I lift the pelvis skyward. So instead I want to find that there's a wonderful efficiency through the spine here, not overstressing those little muscles that run up the spine. Then I'm going to come forwards, let the knees come down. We move into that second side of this sequence. So I'm going to move myself towards the all fours, maybe a little dance here through the shoulders. That movement, that lateral flexion of the spine, an essential movement for spines, not necessarily to find mobility. In fact, I'm currently reading a book at the moment that tells us more that the spine itself prefers rigidity. So it's a nice stable structure for us. But actually, what we're doing here is just loosening up any super or hypertonicity in those tissues. It has to have the capacity to move if we need to move, but strong enough to maintain a strong spine. But from here, I'm going to come forwards. I'm going to lean into that left hand this time. Weight comes out of the right hand. And I'm going to step that right foot forward. I'm going to sink into that lunge position. So I'm coming into that lizard or maybe baby dragon if you prefer to give a bit more structural support to your chest, if you don't want to overstretch in those hamstrings. So depending on the capacity for movement here in that back of the right leg, make that choice for your structure accordingly. So not wanting to overstretch again for those hypermobile or very flexible people, maybe lift yourself further back, push a little more in through that right foot and take perhaps away weight from one, maybe even two, hands lifting up to the fingertips, not maybe lifting both hands away from the floor, that's perhaps a little too strong, but just gently putting some more stress into the stabilizing tissue. The spine itself is quite long here. I'm still keeping the ribs hugged in, And I'm keeping the organs with the spine. So I'm thinking about just lifting up that the sheaths of both fascia and muscle around the front here, that rectus abdominis as well, contracting mildly to give me some support for the trunk. And then I'm going to start investigating movement. So I'm going to start maybe moving pelvis back. Maybe it's a very subtle movement. Maybe it's quite grand movement. So I'm moving my pelvis a bit further back, just thinking about lengthening the right hamstring, finding some space and capacity for elasticity in the back of that right leg. I'm almost rapping this evening, I don't quite know what's going on there. But I'm thinking about moving back, finding the capacity for elasticity. Oh, it's not quite there, is it? But I'm thinking of moving backwards and forwards. Then the next time I move my weight a little further back, I'm going to walk the hands in, move the right leg out. That's where your socks may come in handy. So if you're feeling you're getting stuck, you can always use your sock in the most elegant fashion there to move the leg out to the side. Come forwards and find your way down onto your front. Bend the right knee a little bit. The camera might restrict the angle for this a little bit, but hopefully we remember or recognise the position from the other side. I'm perhaps going to rest the head down, look over the right elbow. And I'm going to start maybe just by sinking into this position, opening up the right inner thigh. How does it feel into this right inner thigh? Not necessarily needing to make a comparison here to the left side, but just noticing what the tension is like here. And maybe we want to start that little action of moving right ankle to the sky. You may find that this side is perhaps a little more complicated, difficult to isolate that movement. So for myself, I'm definitely feeling here on this side, I'm finding much more obstruction to rotation. And then when I feel like I've explored that enough, I'm just going to let it settle back down to the floor and feel that surrender of inner thighs. Just rest yourself onto your front here and breathing into your belly. So for anyone who wakes up in the morning, who has tension in the lower part of the back, this period in particular where perhaps we're maybe being a little more passive in our daily lives, a little bit more sedentary perhaps, you may find that tension finds its way in your lower spine. So laying on your front and breathing into your belly is a fantastic remedy for tightness in the lower spine. Now I'm going to start to move those hands over towards that right side. Just gently drag the spine to give it a gentle arc towards the right. And I'm rolling, trying to find my voice towards the camera here, but I'm finding my way into that mild spinal twist, opening the chest, so I'm laying partly on the side, but an elongated spinal twist. The right arm may prefer to come out, maybe even overhead, for that further feeling of extension. But focusing more onto this right hip at this point. My knee is going to hover, perhaps I even lift the foot to the same height. And I'm going to use my left hand here to anchor the leg down, but I'm then going to press the leg into the hand. And for those of us with tension, you may even feel it into the lower part of the spine as you press against. The buttocks will engage, maybe that iliotibial band here connecting with that muscle here, the TFL. You may find that area tightening, maybe that tension here right around the sacroiliac. And I'm just finding that little bit of movement, breathing into it. And with your next exhalation, let it become more passive. Let the weight of that right leg fall into the floor. Check out if your left buttock was tensing. How does it feel in the jaw and the back of your neck? How can we find the capacity to let go of that more active work that we were just doing here in our spinal twist? And perhaps find the capacity for that more passive aspect. You may find that there is this pull of the right side of your pelvis into the ribs. That perhaps indicates tightness into that lower spine on the right. So how can we perhaps just focus breath into that area? Maybe there is a sense of a reach through the right sitting bone, away from the spine. That can help often bring some more elongation into that area on the lower spine. Let's draw the left leg underneath now. So I'm going to draw the knee towards the chest. And that's going to allow me to step the right foot a little further towards that back end of the mat. And I'm going to place the feet down, passing through what we might even think of as a bridge pose, but I'm just shuffling here to find my way back onto my mat, aligning my spine and let it sink into the floor. And just feel that connection of your spine down, neck relaxed, skull heavy. And when reaching those arms overhead, drawing the knees and let the feet lift. Can we then find those outer edges of the feet for a happy baby, just melting into the hips, those inner thighs melting. For some people, the legs may not open very far. For some, you may really feel those knees dropping down and even hitting the sides of the floor here. Maybe the toes even come a bit further overhead. For some people, that may make the position more accessible. So just find your own alterations for this position. The position itself is really of little importance. It's more of that exploration here of opening up those inner thighs, finding that tension here into the back of the hamstrings, into the knees perhaps even, and noticing how that relates to the tension in the lower back and around the pelvis. And I'm going to gather the inner ankles together, build up some momentum here with that gentle rock and swing, and then nose towards throat, curling on up, and we find our way into our butterfly position. And again, just let those legs come as far forward as they need to be, draw the toes back. We won't sustain this one for too long because we're repeating here. So I'm just going to start moving myself a bit further forward. Again, not needing to necessarily compare this to the previous time I hit the position, but just thinking more about how do we now feel in this position? How does the spine respond? Perhaps here this time we might even allow more of a rounding into the back. Perhaps even visualizing putting those feet on the back of your head or onto the back of the shoulders. If Izzy were demoing, I'd get her legs there for you so you could see her legs resting on the back of her head. For those of you who are super mobile. If you're doing this at home and you're now trying to put your feet behind your head, take it easy. From here I'm going to gently press those feet into the floor, round the back, roll my way up, bring the hands behind me and let the knees then come up. I'm going to push the feet into the floor, lift my bottom, and I'm finding now the back of the body is working. I'm going to soften around the pelvis. Let the left side relax down. Use your left hand to push down, finding the side body engaging here to lift me up, and then I'm pivoting, kebab on a spit again, to come back to my downward facing dog. Feel free to take movement. Feel free to wiggle your hips. And that snaky kind of salsa dance into your pelvis and spine. So from here we're going to come forward with our weight again towards the hands, soften those knees, lift the ribs in, lift the abdominals, just so we're not letting the organs hang out. Let the knees come down, walk yourself back, bring the hands back again to a comfortable position and press the spine through the skin. Let your neck relax, let your head dingle-dangle down between your shoulders. Close your eyes, focus in on your breathing. So I'm now going to explain the next bit of the process that we're going to go through here, but keep those eyes closed, keep feeling the back of the heart pressing through the skin. We're going to essentially take all of these positions, all of these transitions that we've taken, and we start to just move a little more fluid through them. Don't worry about going fast, and if you feel you need to go even slower than what I'm saying, feel free to go for that if that works better for you. But I promise you I won't go too fast. So I'm pressing that spine still through the skin. Let's allow the eyes to now open. And I'm going to start moving the body forwards. Bring the weight into your hands. Sink the weight back a little bit here. I'm going to lean into my right hand. Left hand lifts. I'm going to lift the left knee. Step forwards. Find that lunge. Hands come down. Press the hands down to move the bum back. Come forwards. We'll take this little movement a few more times. Doesn't need to be big, could be small. The next time you come back, bring your hands with you. Move the weight into your hands and move the left leg aside. I'm going to move the hands forward and chaturanga almost down onto that front surface. I'm going to bend the knee. As the hands come out, they're going to go straight away to that left side, so I feel that arc in the spine. I'm going to look for the ankle, like I'm looking to check my watch on my ankle here. And then I lower it back down. I'm going to push from the foot, take that spinal twist. Reach with the elbow. Here, just feeling that pull of the left knee up towards the left armpit. So I'm getting that feeling of tension into the body, feeling the abdominals. I'm going to come back, Draw the right knee underneath. Find that mini bridge position. Press down onto the shoulders. Momentary wiggle. Feel free to look a little like Baloo scratching his back on the tree. So feel free there. Take a bit of time. Enjoy that movement. Roll down through the spine. Arms breathe in up over the head. Draw the knees. Lift the feet. Catch the feet. Bring the feet together. Swing and sit. Come all the way up. Move the feet forward. Take a forward bend. Your next breath in, slowing down like that beginning of the practice, lifting yourself up to sitting, let your legs come long. Soften the chest, bring the hands behind you, walk the feet back. You can do it decoratively if you like. I'm going to lift the bottom away from the floor. I've been working the left side, so I'm going to let the right leg go to sleep, sit even onto the bottom. Twizzle the hand, send yourself up to your downward facing dog. Take a movement into your spine, into your hands. Thinking here, rather than a position, this is an exchange of pressure. And I'm pushing from one hand to the feet. So you're moving a little more fluid. This is our yang-based movement, shifting blood through the body. Take your breath in, move forwards. Weight comes to the hands. Lower the knees, sink back. With your next breath in, move forward. With your exhale, move back. So close your eyes here, just with this gentle movement forwards and backwards. Now, whilst you're doing this gentle rock forwards and backwards, let go of the experience that you just had on the other side. So not worrying if it was a complete disaster, if you were wrapped up on the floor, rolling round, feeling like you were in some kind of very surreal dance class, don't worry. None of it means anything. So instead, all I'm going to do is use it as a lesson to feel how coordinated or uncoordinated I feel in my body. So I'm going to take the other side. So I'm just going to move my weight backwards, come forwards, into the left hand. Draw back, lift the right hand and step the right foot forwards. I'm going to sink into hands and feet, move forwards and backwards still. And I'm using this, building some heat, building some blood flow in the body. Moving through those various lengthenings of tissue on that back right leg. Now the next time I move back, I'm going to slide the hands back so I can then take the weight and move that right leg out to the side. I'm going to walk the hands forwards, find that roll down, ripple down perhaps if you're feeling a little bit tight in the elbows or don't want to overwork the backs of the arms. Move the hands to the right side of your mat. Pull yourself towards that right knee. Roll onto your side and take your spinal twist. Draw the knee up towards the armpit. So I'm reaching out into space. I feel my abdominals even working. Gently draw left knee up. Exchange the feet here, and you're going to move up again through that lovely wriggling position here on your spine, like you're trying to scratch your back. Roll your way down. Take a breath in, arms come up. I'm going to draw the knees, draw the feet. Catch the feet, soften the knees and swing up. Sit myself up, come forwards. Relax over the legs. Your next breath in, wave through the spine. Bring your hands back, draw the knees, place the feet. Pushing yourself up. Soften the left side of the body. Bring your left hand into the floor and push yourself up, and you're finding your way into that downward facing dog. Take a moment here, wiggle the spine, wiggle the bottom. Take a breath in, come forwards, lower knees. Let's see if we can just move through the sequence. One more time on each side, a little fluider. More fluid, is that a word? Move forwards. Bring the left foot forward, sink back. Breath in, come forward. From here, I'm going to move back, let the left leg move out. Come forwards and roll down. Spiral. Left shoulder comes back, find a spinal twist. Pull into the abdominals, exchange the legs. Move your pelvis to the center, wriggle down, find that bridge position, roll down. Arms come up, catch the feet, sit yourself up. Legs come forward, sitting up, hands move back, draw the knees, bottom lifts, right hip drops down, push the bum up, spiral, and find down dog. Come forwards, lower knees, drop back, move weight to left hand, right foot steps forward, rock back, come forwards, rock back, hands move back, hands come out, foot comes out, move forwards, wave down through spine, right shoulder rolls back, find a twist, draw the right knee up, bring the left knee in, twist onto your back surface, moving yourself into that center of your mat, roll down. Arms come up, catch the feet, rock yourself up. Legs come forward, dive. Rolling up, bottom comes up as I push feet down, left side drops down. I'm going to push up, bum comes up. Breath in, lift heels, curve spine, lower those knees. Sit yourself back, sit onto your heels, close your eyes. Close your eyes and just feel. Now let go of whatever embarrassment you may have felt there if you got lost. Let go of any feelings of shame. Don't worry about the positions, don't worry about the movement. As long as we've felt the body, that's the most important part of the practice. Swing your legs around towards the front of your mat. Shift the pelvis to the center. Arms reach out. Roll your way down onto your back. As you come onto your back here, just flex your feet back. Get your heels reaching away from you. Let your fingers reach back. Open up your chest and then relax. Just let yourself come into a Shavasana. Take a few breaths if you need to let yourself settle. Use those exhalations to just let go of the practice. We don't need to hold on to anything in terms of our experience from the practice. The body itself will maintain the lessons that we teach into it through the coordination, the engagement, the lengthening, the stretching, the shortening, the tightening. But for our mind at this point, Shavasana is an opportunity to take rest from that duty of care for your physical body and instead take a break. Take a moment to recuperate its strength and focus. We're just taking a slightly shortened Shavasana here, but feel free to come back to this following the closing of the video. But feel free to come back to this state and just enjoy feeling your body melt into floor. For your mind to perhaps even wander for a while. But for now, let's start re-engaging with the body, feeling it, starting to wiggle those fingers, wiggle those toes, and know the movements that you make in those joints. So trying to return into conscious movement, so not just wiggling for the sake of it, but feeling that reawakening of the body. Rolling ankles, rolling wrists, elbows perhaps soften, arms reach overhead, take a stretch, roll onto your, let's say, right hand side here, and find your way back up to a comfortable seated position, something where your spine can fly, where your legs and your pelvis can feel anchored and earthed down into the ground. Bring your hands together in front of your heart and thanking yourselves for your practice this evening. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you very much and have a good evening. So thank you all very much, everyone. Izzy, would you like to come and join me here? So thank you all for coming along here. Our next session, I believe, is on, it's not tomorrow, I think it's coming on Saturday. And there we have
morning.
a Vinyasa, I believe, with Izzy.
Yeah.
And then following that, I think we have one of our first tutorials with massage, which I believe is myself, this one, working with some more general massage techniques. So great opportunity if you're trapped in a house at some point with someone who you think needs a good massage, then I could teach you some of those skills that would be quite useful for that.
And that's Sunday evening that we're going to do that. So Sunday morning I'm doing a Vinyasa Flow. I think on the schedule set 10:30.
In the morning.
Anyway, we're going to put it down on the schedule.
It'll be online.
And the evening will be.
And just another kind of plug there for the donations. If you're happy, if you've enjoyed the practice this evening and you'd like to contribute to the initiative, then you can find the links to that on the biographies and elsewhere. I can't see the screen right now to see if anyone's giving us thumbs up or any comments, so we will check that. But if you do have questions about anything that's come up, questions about the initiative, questions about either of us, about your practice, send us those in private messages. Send us pictures of you practicing. It's really, I said it on the yoga ground video the other day, but it's the same here. It's so nice to know that you're practicing with us, because at the moment I'm staring at 2 iPhones and an iPad. So do let us know if you're out there, and have a lovely remainder to your evening, and stay safe, stay healthy.